The alert came through at 3:17 a.m., the soft blue glow lighting up my face in the darkness of our empty bedroom. I had fallen asleep waiting for him again. The message was from Visa, confirming Adam's purchase, 2 business class tickets to Rome leaving next Friday. 2 tickets. Not 1, not 3, 2. I remember how the screen blurred as tears welled up in my eyes, my thumb hovering above the notification, trembling slightly before I tapped it open. I didn't want to know more, but I had to. 19 years of marriage had taught me to recognize the signals. The little clues, the quiet betrayals that took root in the background of what you once believed was love. Adam hadn't mentioned any trip to Rome. Not when we ate dinner 3 nights ago, and he was unusually affectionate. Not yesterday morning when he kissed me goodbye and said he'd be working late again. The second ticket wasn't for me. It never had been. I sat up in our king-sized bed, the one we'd picked out together during better times, and wrapped myself tightly in the duvet, as if it could protect me from what I already knew was unraveling. The house was so quiet. I could hear the low hum of the fridge downstairs. Outside, a light rain had started tapping against the windows, each droplet a tiny percussion in the slow symphony of my crumbling life. Rome. I whispered it to myself, the word tasting bitter in my mouth. It was where we'd gone on our honeymoon, 19 years ago. The irony didn't escape me. Adam returning to the place where our story began, to mark what now felt like the end. I wondered if he'd take her to the same tiny trattoria in Trastevere, where he once promised to love me forever. Would they walk along the Tiber River at dusk, his arm around her the way it used to be around me? I opened my laptop and signed into our shared account. There it was, staring back at me with merciless clarity, 2 tickets booked under their names. Adam and Valerie. Valerie, his project manager Valerie, who'd been at our home for dinner just a few weeks ago, smiling at me across my own dining table, while her foot probably teased my husband's under it. But my hands didn't shake anymore. Something inside me had turned cold and sharp. The grief was giving way to something else, something with edges. I stood and walked to the bathroom, looking into the mirror. 46 years old. The laugh lines had long since become permanent. My hair, streaked with silver since the pandemic when I stopped bothering to dye it, framed a face I barely recognized. When had I started to look this worn down? When did I become someone he could throw away so easily? But there was something else staring back at me in that mirror, something I hadn't seen in years. A flicker. A fire. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to be the weeping, discarded wife. No, I was going to be something else entirely. I pulled out my phone and took a screenshot of the ticket confirmation. Then I opened my personal email account, the one Adam didn't know about, and forwarded it to myself. Evidence. The beginning of something. I didn't call him to ask where he was. I didn't text to see when he'd be home. Instead, I made myself a cup of tea and sat at our kitchen island, planning. I thought about our history, rewinding it like a film playing backward. The slow fade of his affection. The business trips that had started stretching longer and more often. The way he'd stop mid-sentence whenever his phone buzzed. The unfamiliar perfume I sometimes caught on his shirts. It didn't matter anymore. I thought about our daughter, Natalie, off at college, still looking up to her father like he hung the moon. And it ached. The image she held of him was so pure, so untouchable. An illusion I had quietly helped sustain. I had made excuses for his absences, brushed off his late arrivals and last-minute cancellations, even smiled through birthdays where he showed up late and left early. I protected her innocence at the cost of my own clarity. And now, knowing what I knew, it felt like I was about to break her heart just to show her the truth. I wondered, would she blame me for not telling her sooner? For keeping her in the dark while I swallowed my doubts? How carefully he'd built his persona as the perfect dad, the accomplished executive, the devoted husband, all the while, systematically tearing down everything we'd built together. By the time the first light of dawn spilled through the kitchen windows and lit up the granite countertops in gold, I knew exactly what I had to do. This wasn't anger anymore. This was clarity, the kind that arrives when you finally stop lying to yourself. When Adam came home that morning, apologizing for crashing at the office overnight, I smiled and kissed his cheek. You work too hard, I said, sliding a cup of coffee toward him. He looked relieved, even grateful. He had no idea I had already phoned my own travel agent while he was in the shower. No idea that I had booked my own seat to Rome, seat 4C, right beside 4B, his seat. With Valerie and 4A by the window, the game had begun. And this time, I was the one writing the rules. The week leading up to their flight felt like the most surreal performance of my life. Every morning, I'd wake up next to Adam, make him breakfast, kiss him goodbye, all the while knowing. Each night I listened to his stories. Client issues, board meetings, business trips, nodding in all the right places while a voice inside me murmured, liar, liar, liar. On Tuesday, he said he had to fly to Denver for an emergency with a partner firm. He'd be gone through Sunday night. Terrible timing, he said, his expression the picture of regret as he packed. You know I hate being away this long. I sat on the edge of our bed, watching him sort through his ties, picking out the blue silk one I'd given him last Christmas. I understand, I said, handing him his travel toiletry bag. Business is business. That night, after he left, I opened a bottle of wine and called my sister, Rachel. I hadn't told anyone yet. Saying it out loud would make it too real, and I wasn't quite ready for that, but I needed someone to know what I was planning. He's taking her to Rome, I said. I said after my second glass on Friday. The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought we'd lost connection. Jess, Rachel finally said, are you absolutely sure? I laughed, but it came out hollow, even to me. I saw the tickets, Rachel, both of their names. First-class hotel reservations at the Excelsior Roma, a suite, the same hotel where we stayed on our honeymoon. That son of a... Rachel whispered. What are you going to do? Confront him? Better, I said, and laid out my plan. That's insane, she said when I finished, but also kind of brilliant. Are you sure about this? Was I sure? No, I wasn't sure of anything anymore. Not my marriage, not my future, not even who I was without the title of Adam's wife, the identity I'd worn for 19 years. But one thing I knew, I deserved the truth. All of it, and I deserved to reclaim my dignity on my terms. I'm sure, I told Rachel, I need to see it with my own eyes. I need them to see me seeing it. The next morning, I went to the bank and withdrew $15,000 from our joint savings. Not enough to trip any alerts with Adam, but enough for what I needed. I opened a new account in just my name. Then I contacted a lawyer. Someone Adam didn't know, from a small but respected firm on the East Side, and booked a consultation. Just exploring options, I told the receptionist when she asked the nature of the appointment. That night, I stood in front of my closet weighing what to pack for Rome. What do you wear to confront your cheating husband at 35,000 feet? I chose carefully. My most expensive items. The designer dress he'd gifted me on our anniversary, the cashmere sweater that made my green eyes stand out, the heels that added 2 inches of height I didn't feel in my chest. On Wednesday, Adam called from Denver. How's the weather there? I asked lightly. Cold, he answered right away. Typical Denver winter. I opened my weather app. Denver, 52 degrees and sunny. Unusually warm for February. Sounds miserable, I said. Stay warm, I miss you. He softened, just like he always did when I played my part. This trip feels longer than usual. I swallowed the words, threatening to escape. Instead, I matched his tone. I miss you too. I'm thinking of going to see Natalie this weekend, maybe drive up to campus and surprise her. That's a great idea, he said, sounding relieved. She'd love that. Another lie. Another brick in the wall. He knew I wouldn't be reachable if I was visiting our daughter. A perfect alibi. On both sides. Thursday night, I packed my suitcase with mechanical precision. Clothes, toiletries, passport, and one thing Adam didn't know I owned, a small high-definition camera, cleverly disguised as a pen. Rachel had helped me order it online. Just in case, she'd said. The camera disguised as a pen, Rachel had helped me order it online. Just in case, she'd said. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Adam and Valerie laughing together in Rome, strolling hand in hand beneath the glow of the Colosseum, making love in a hotel bed paid for with our money. Money I'd helped earn during the lean years, when his startup had just been getting off the ground. Money that was supposed to be for our retirement, for Natalie's wedding one day, for the life we had envisioned together. I gave everything to them. I whispered into the darkness, and they threw me away like I was nothing. Friday morning broke crisp and bright. I took an Uber to the airport 3 hours before their flight was scheduled to depart. I had to be seated before they boarded. I needed the advantage of surprise. At check-in, the airline agent smiled warmly at me. "Traveling to Rome? How lovely." "Yes," I replied, smiling right back. "I'm meeting someone there." She had no idea how true that was. I've never been good at chess, but Adam was. He tried to teach me during the first few years of our marriage, always stressing the importance of anticipating your opponent's next move. "The beauty of the game," he'd say, eyes gleaming with passion, "is that they never see the real attack coming until it's too late." Funny how his own favorite strategy would become his downfall. My preparations had begun months before I even knew about Rome. I'd sensed something off. Couldn't quite name it. Call it instinct or self-preservation. But I started collecting fragments, quiet digital footprints most people wouldn't notice. Last summer, when Adam left his laptop open by mistake, I installed monitoring software. It automatically forwarded his emails to a hidden account I'd set up. I told myself it wasn't spying. No, it was protecting our family. Just in case. I never checked it. I wasn't ready to face the truth. Until now. I hesitated before logging in. A part of me still clung to hope, to the possibility that maybe it wasn't as bad as I feared. But that part of me had grown small. Quiet. And as the inbox loaded, silence fell like a curtain. My fingers hovered above the trackpad. My chest tightened. Some irrational part of me still wanted to close the laptop and pretend. Pretend that I didn't know what I already knew. Because knowing meant no going back. Knowing meant burning everything down. I clicked. And the first message shattered any last remnant of denial. Seated at gate C-17, surrounded by wandering passengers and gate announcements, I logged into the email account for the first time. Hundreds of emails. Exchanges between Adam and Valerie going back a year and a half. Hotel bookings, late-night messages, photos I wish I could unsee. Dreams they shared, plans for a life. A life that very clearly excluded me. I clicked through them slowly, methodically. Every message felt like a needle, sharp, small, deliberate. They joked about clients I helped bring in, shared inside jokes while I stayed home planning dinner. I wasn't just betrayed, I was erased. Bit by bit, quietly removed from the picture. But it wasn't just the affair that stunned me, it was the money. Adam had been slowly draining funds from our joint business account and diverting them into one under his name only. Small transfers at first, then larger ones as he got bolder. He was building an escape fund, lining up a soft landing for his new life while leaving me exposed. What he didn't know, what he would never have guessed, was that I had already spoken with Marcus, our accountant. The same Marcus who'd been with us since we launched the business from our basement. Marcus, whose daughter I had helped tutor, whose college essay I had revised, who once cried when she got into Northwestern. Marcus had looked at the numbers I showed him, then looked at me, and slowly shook his head in disbelief. "This isn't just unethical, Jessica," Marcus had said quietly. "Some of this crosses into illegal territory, especially the client billing discrepancies." Marcus had already prepared a full financial report for my lawyer. Adam thought I was just the creative one, the people person who didn't understand the financials. He'd conveniently forgotten that I had an MBA collecting dust while I stayed home raising our daughter and supporting his climb. I glanced at my watch, 1 hour until boarding. I pulled out my phone and queued up 3 scheduled emails, each set to send in 24 hours, unless I canceled them. One to our company board, complete with the financial evidence. One to Natalie with a gentle but honest explanation. And one to Adam's parents, who had always treated me like their own daughter, expressing my regret over how everything had unfolded. I wasn't being vindictive. I was being thorough. Next, I called Detective Ramirez, an old college friend who now worked in financial crimes. Our conversation the week before had opened doors I never thought I'd need. "Everything's set," she confirmed. "Just send the text when you're ready, and we'll move forward." "Thank you," I said, surprised by the strange calm that was now resting inside me. 15 years of friendship merits unusual," she replied. "Besides, what he's doing is textbook fraud. We would have caught it eventually." I ended the call and opened my compact mirror. I'd gone to the salon the day before. Cut, color, style, The woman staring back at me wasn't the overlooked wife Adam had grown used to. She was sharp, composed, intentional. I reapplied my lipstick, Chanel Rouge Allure in Pirate, a vivid red I'd stopped wearing years ago after Adam once remarked it was a bit much for me. My phone buzzed with a message from Rachel. "Plane landed yet?" "Not yet," I replied. "Boarding soon, I'm ready." Remember, she texted back, "You're not just doing this for yourself, you're doing it for every woman who's ever been made to feel invisible." I smiled. Rachel, always the crusader. But she wasn't wrong. This was about more than just a crumbling marriage. This was about reclaiming myself. My power. My voice. The gate agent called for pre-boarding. I gathered my things, carefully handling my carry-on, the one containing the sealed envelope of documents my lawyer had prepared. Divorce papers, financial disclosures, evidence of fraud, all set to be served 35,000 feet above ground. I'd even packed Adam's favorite whiskey in a TSA-approved travel bottle, not as a gesture of goodwill, but as part of the plan. He always drank during flights. Said it eased his quiet fear of flying. Another secret he thought I didn't know. As I stepped into the jetway, I saw them, Adam and Valerie, arriving at the gate. His hand rested on the small of her back, a touch so familiar and intimate it knocked the air from my lungs. She was laughing at something he said, her head tilted up, eyes locked on his, like he was the center of her world. He hadn't looked at me like that in years. Not with tenderness, not with awe. They didn't see me. They were too caught up in each other, in the thrill of their secret, in the fantasy of the romantic escape they believed they were about to enjoy. I boarded early and found my seat, 4C. Settling in, I arranged my things with care, slipping the pen camera into the inner pocket of my jacket so it had the perfect angle. Then I accepted a glass of champagne from the flight attendant, who greeted the business class passengers with a polished smile. "Celebrating something special?" she asked. I took a sip, the bubbles fizzing on my tongue. "You could say that," I said. "Today's the first day of the rest of my life." She had no idea how true that was. As I sipped my drink, I kept my eyes on the cabin door, waiting for Adam and Valerie to walk in, completely unaware that I was already 10 steps ahead in a game they didn't even know we were playing. They boarded during final call. I watched as Adam guided her into the cabin, his hand resting lightly on her lower back, leaning close to whisper something that made her laugh. That same laugh I'd heard at my own dinner table, the night she'd praised my lasagna like we were old friends. Except now, it rang with something far more intimate. I inhaled steadily and raised my champagne glass just enough to mask part of my face as they reached row 4. Adam checked the seat numbers, completely relaxed, completely unsuspecting. "Here we are," he said to her. "You take the window." Valerie slid into 4A, placing her designer handbag beneath the seat. A bag I'd once admired in a fashion spread, one Adam had scoffed at, saying it was absurdly overpriced. Then he turned to claim his seat, right next to me. I lowered my glass. "Hello, Adam," I said, calm and composed. The color drained from his face so fast, I thought he might lose consciousness. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. 15 years of marriage and I'd never once seen him at a loss for words. "Jessica," he finally managed, barely above a whisper. "What are you? How are you? 4C. I held up my boarding pass. Right next to you. What a coincidence." Valerie leaned forward, squinting, her face creased with confusion, until recognition set in, followed by sheer panic. And in that flicker of realization, I saw the fantasy crumble. The glossy illusion she had clung to, of being chosen, of being special, shattered the moment she saw me. And I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel anger. I felt something heavier. Pity. For her. And perhaps for the woman I used to be, the one who believed being loyal meant being safe. She turned to Adam, silently pleading for him to make this all go away. "You need to get off the plane," he hissed, desperation edging into his voice. "We can talk when I get back. Not here. Please." "Please take your seat, sir." A flight attendant called out from behind him. "We need to prepare for departure." He sat down stiffly, posture tense, hands clenching the armrest. A light sheen of sweat beaded along his forehead despite the crisp cabin air. "Jessica," he muttered, his voice low and urgent. "Let me explain. This isn't what it looks like." I tilted my head. "It's not, because it really looks like you're flying your project manager to Rome on our 19th anniversary weekend, to the same hotel where we spent our honeymoon. using money from our joint account. Valerie made a small strangled sound in her seat by the window. The flight attendant approached again, placing pre-departure drinks on the tray table, champagne for the gentleman, and for the lady at the window. Yes, I answered for them. My husband and his colleague would love some champagne. We're celebrating after all. Adam shot me a warning look as he accepted the drink, his hands unsteady. The flight attendant moved on, blissfully unaware of the quiet war unfolding in row 4. What do you want? Adam asked, his voice a tense mix of fear and fury. Money? Is that it? You came here to humiliate me? I laughed, softly, genuinely. Adam, if I wanted money, I would have just moved it out of our accounts. The way you've been doing for the past 18 months. His face went pale, then gray. What are you talking about? The offshore account, I said. The creative accounting at the company. The missing payments from our top-tier clients. Did you think Marcus wouldn't notice eventually? He's been with us for over a decade. You talked to Marcus? His whisper was nearly lost beneath the hum of the engines spooling up. I did, I said, taking another sip of champagne. And Detective Ramirez, and the board, and our attorney, well, my attorney now. I reached into my tote and pulled out a sealed envelope, placing it carefully in his lap. Happy anniversary, darling. 15 years is crystal. Traditionally, but I thought legal documents might be more fitting, considering the occasion. Adam stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. Beside him, Valerie sat frozen, her champagne glass untouched. You're bluffing, he said, but his voice carried no conviction. In response, I unlocked my phone and held it up for him to see. The scheduled emails, ready to send in 24 hours. The board, the clients, his parents, all of them set to receive full documentation of his financial misconduct and personal betrayal. Unless I canceled the messages. You see, Adam, I said quietly, while you were planning your romantic escape, I was planning too. The difference is, my plan doesn't just end a marriage. It burns everything to the ground if you don't cooperate. The seatbelt sign dinged overhead. I fastened mine calmly, then waited until he did the same. What do you want? He repeated, anger fading into defeat. I leaned slightly closer, ensuring Valerie could hear every word. I want everything I'm entitled to, plus damages, for the harm to my professional standing by association. I want the house, half the business holdings, the legitimate ones, and full access to all financial accounts. That's insane, he muttered. No court would. We're not going to court, I said smoothly. That would be messy, public, and lead to possible criminal charges. For you, this stays quiet, private, as long as you sign today, on this plane. The aircraft began taxiing. Adam gripped the armrests, knuckles whitening. Flying had always made him uneasy. There's a pen inside the envelope, I added helpfully. Valerie finally spoke. Her voice was small and tight with panic. Adam, what is she talking about? Criminal charges? You told me the money was legitimate. I turned to her, and for the first time, I meant it when I said, Valerie, did you honestly think you were the only one he was lying to? Adam fumbled with the envelope, his fingers clumsy. Inside were the divorce papers. The financial terms. The evidence. A letter of resignation from the company board, drawn up by my lawyer, sat among the documents, supported by every piece of evidence I'd gathered. As the plane climbed into the sky, I quietly watched 19 years of marriage dissolve into finality. Adam read the documents slowly, shaking his head now and then like he still couldn't believe it was happening. There's a notary in business class, I said, glancing at seat 8D. I met her at check-in. She's agreed to witness your signatures during the flight. You thought of everything, he said bitterly. I learned from the best, I replied. You always told me, stay 10 steps ahead. By the time we reached cruising altitude, Adam had signed everything, using the recording pen I'd provided, the same one that had been silently documenting every word, every admission, every broken breath. When the seatbelt sign turned off, I waved over the notary. In the tight space of a plane cabin, with nowhere to retreat, Adam sat frozen while his signature was officially witnessed and stamped. I'll take a scotch, he muttered to the passing flight attendant. Make it a double. I gathered the signed documents carefully and tucked them back into my bag. You can keep your Rome getaway, I told him. Consider it a farewell gift. I'm booked on the return flight tomorrow morning. How generous, he said, sarcasm curling every syllable. I ignored it. I wouldn't make any purchases on the company card if I were you, I added. Those accounts were frozen this morning. Valerie's face turned a sickly shade of pale. What about the hotel? The reservations? She asked, her voice thin. I smiled. I'm sure Adam can afford something more modest, maybe with 2 twin beds, now that you know who he really is. That was 1 year ago today, 1 year since Flight AZ741 to Rome, where I reclaimed my life at 35,000 feet. I'm sitting now at a quiet cafe in Trastevere, watching tourists amble to the Tiber River as twilight stretches across the cobblestones. Rome in February has a pensive kind of beauty. Bare trees, soft light, ancient walls glowing amber against the dusky sky. Some nights, the silence in my apartment had felt too loud. There were moments I missed the illusion, not the man, but the noise of routine, the shape of something familiar. I didn't cry for him, but I did cry, for the woman I used to be, for the time I couldn't get back. And so do I. Not polished in the way I once tried to be, but real. Weathered by pain, sculpted by clarity. There's a different kind of beauty in surviving, in sitting still with yourself and feeling peace instead of panic. I've ordered a glass of Barolo and a small dish of aged pecorino. I take my time, savoring each bite. Rome feels different when you're not escaping someone or chasing what's already lost. It feels like freedom. After that flight, everything moved quickly. The evidence I'd compiled left Adam no room to challenge anything. His business partners bought out his shares, at a deep discount. Out of courtesy. To me. I kept the house for a while. But I sold it 6 months later. Too many ghosts. Too many echoes in rooms that had never truly known love. Natalie didn't speak to me for almost 2 months after I told her the truth. She'd always put her father on a pedestal. And the fall from grace was steep. But eventually, one rainy Sunday afternoon, she rang my doorbell with a bottle of red wine in one hand and tears in her eyes. I read the emails, Natalie said. Dad left his laptop open when I visited. I saw everything. We cried together that night, not just for the end of a marriage, but for the unraveling of her childhood belief in who her father was. The healing between us has been slow, but real. She's here in Rome with me now, though off exploring Trastevere with friends from her study abroad program. As for Adam and Valerie, their relationship didn't survive the flight. She left him at Leonardo da Vinci Airport after realizing just how deep his betrayals ran. He returned to a life in shambles, his career diminished, his family fractured, his reputation stained. Last I heard, he'd relocated to Arizona, working for a distant cousin's modest accounting firm. Sometimes I wonder, was I too cold? Too calculated in my takedown? But then I remember the precision with which he plotted to erase me, to leave me financially exposed while he started over with someone younger. I remember the gaslighting, the lies, the years I spent shrinking myself so he could shine. No, I don't regret what I did. I only regret the years I spent dimming my light to fuel his. My phone buzzes, a text from Rachel. 1-year anniversary of Operation Rome Takedown. How's the view from the other side? I smile, lift my wine glass, and snap a photo with the cobblestone street in the background. I send it with one simple caption, clear and bright. The waiter returns, topping off my glass and asking if I'd like anything else. For a moment I consider the question more deeply than he intends. Do I want anything else? After 19 years of chasing the illusion of a perfect marriage, of yearning for Adam's approval, of trying to be enough, what do I want now? The answer is stunning in its simplicity. I want this quiet contentment, this ease in my own skin, this moment where I am fully myself, answering to no one. I've started a consulting business, helping women build financial independence after divorce. Turns out experience, even the painful kind, has value when shared with others walking similar paths. There's healing in giving your story a purpose. Natalie finds me just as the lights begin to dance across the Colosseum. She looks more like me than ever. Same determined jaw, same discerning eyes. She slides into the seat across from me, her cheeks flushed from the cold. How was your day? I ask, nudging the cheese plate toward her. Amazing, she says, eyes glowing. I'm thinking about applying to grad schools here. We talk about it, about her dreams and the open future that lies ahead of her. And as we talk, I realize my greatest triumph wasn't orchestrating a flawless exit or securing a fair settlement. It was showing my daughter that you don't stay where you're being diminished. That betrayal doesn't earn your silence. That sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is walk away. Or in my case, book a seat beside the truth. Later, as we stroll back toward our hotel, Natalie slips her arm through mine. "Mom," she says softly, "I'm proud of you. For everything. For surviving. For thriving." I squeeze her arm gently, too moved for words. The city lights shimmer in puddles from a passing rain, each one breaking into fragments of gold beneath our feet. I think of the woman I was a year ago, shattered, terrified, but beginning to rise. And I think of the woman I am now, whole, certain, and walking forward. Some say the best revenge is living well. They're not wrong, but I found something even better. Living authentically is the ultimate freedom.